Hi, I'm Florence.
And I'm Reed, and we partner with Durex to challenge sexual norms and why we conform to them.
Today we're chatting to our friend Jamie to shed some light on the topic and also their non-binary journey.
Jamie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I've had a copious amount of coffee.
Oh, perfect.
I've got a mini me on my ear, and we're rolling.
Mini
I didn't
they.
even realise. Mini they. I see what you did
Mini
there.
they. You use those, right? Don't you?
I love that segue. Yes, I do. Thank you very much for acknowledging that, dear. Yes. I don't know. It's like a thing, but it's not a thing. It's like just a language thing. Like language is just like constantly changing, so that it's catching up and it's constantly kind of allowing us to say what we are and how we feel that you couldn't before.
I got told when I was younger, I always used to say they about one person, and someone told me when I was younger that they only meant a group of people.
Lies.
I know.
Like pure lies.
Yeah, because it just got added to the US version of the Oxford Dictionary as a singular pronoun.
When did you figure out that you didn't identify as male or female?
I think for me it was, again, a language thing. So like I'd always not felt that I was either male or female, but I didn't have the, I guess, like linguistic tools or like the knowledge to be able to plot that. And like literally the power of social media, I was able to like find a community of people that I then saw using this language and this kind of terminology, and I was like, oh, that's quite nice.
Is that how you like first discovered it?
Yeah, it was actually embarrassingly through Twitter. So millennial. I found my gender on Twitter.
Do you feel like, especially with your presence online, that you have to take like extra precautions on social media? Like, is it quite a scary place when you're being so open about your gender identity? Like, are there people out there that go out their way to try and make you like question you?
To be honest, most of the time that if I ever get any abuse online, it's from people that I know.
Really?
Really?
Not necessarily well, like it's not like my mum.
Like, Mum, stop.
God's sake, mum. It's like people that I have like a very tenuous connection with. So like people that I either went to school with.
Oh, God.
That I obviously don't care about.
Sorry, guys.
Who are you?
It's really hard because obviously I'm in a fairly unique position online. However, the reaction that I get is very common for people who are trans and gender non-conforming across the board. One of the most important things is just like not reading anything. For example, if I ever have anything in the press or in a publication, like I always scroll to the comments.
Yeah. Oh, really?
you?
Yeah,
Like
but
automatic?
So I'll read it and I'll be like, la, 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 and then it's like such a tease because it'll be like 32 comments, and I'm like,
Ooh, you're like, what?
I literally sit there like,
Oh, it's called looking for trouble though, because
No,
you
yeah.
know it's going to be a negative comment.
it's just my mum. No.
It's just your mum 33 times.
So what happened when you were 13 and onwards into your teens?
I think obviously puberty was a thing.
Yeah.
Don't know if you've heard of this.
Puberty.
It is a thing.
Puberty. But it was
Scary as
kind
well.
of, it was scary, but it was kind of like, I always knew that I was at that time like attracted to men. One thing I did remember from my childhood is that I never actually got the chance to come out. Everyone just kind of,
Assumed.
yeah, like trying to kind of pull me out.
Yeah, or came out for you, and they're like, "Oh, we know," and you're like,
Yeah.
That's not the
not
point of coming
helpful.
out."
So actually,
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
not
like
helpful.
I've never, even with being non-binary, I've never actually had that like cliche like, I've got something to tell you. I've never done that.
Do you feel robbed that you wanted to come out?
I did feel a slightly robbed, but I also kind of, it's quite a privileged position to be in as well, because I think that assumption that they were going to be fine with it was actually quite nice.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't have to come out.
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
you shouldn't have to say, "Parents, I'm actually straight,"
Yeah,
and wait for the shock.
I'd disown you.
Kick me out in the streets.
Yeah, so it was interesting, but what that does mean is that I don't necessarily then have the moment for them to then begin their education. They're not necessarily fully aware. So therefore, when it comes to like learning practical things about like allyship and like, especially when it comes to gender and stuff, they're not necessarily, they're brilliant, they're absolutely supportive, but they're kind of just like, don't know if it's a generational thing, but there's definitely like a slight disconnect.
I just feel like there's a lot of people around just like, I don't get it. Like, why are you making me change things?
Yeah. Or don't want to get it.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people see people like myself or other trans people who are at a place that they're comfortable and they want to be there straight away. So they'll just like do everything all at once.
Yeah.
In terms of like fashion and physical expression. And that's fine, but it's also like the world isn't ready for us at the moment. Like it's a tough world to be in, appearing feminine in any manner. So like you need to take your time with it and like make sure that you are comfortable with it. I think being able to express yourself in any way you want is definitely like a marker of further change within your life. So it impacts like the work that you do and the relationships that you have with people, and it's like a catalyst. It kind of just makes you reevaluate pretty much everything. It makes, it's quite difficult because I think now, especially for like trans and non-binary people, and specifically people of colour, like we're in a state where it's so difficult press-wise and it's so difficult kind of like legislation-wise, that sometimes being able to express yourself as free as you want is like one of your only, is mercy is the right word? I guess. Because you're constantly kind of bombarded with like transphobia and that rhetoric within the press that, or just, on social media or in person, that being able to just exist as you want is sometimes the best part of that.
When did you start dating? And was it scary going into it, like having to kind of explain yourself to people that wouldn't understand? Yeah,
I think what frustrated me the most about it was like the fact that during like basically my whole puberty and even university, that like dating was over here and everyone else had access to it very easily, and I found everyone could almost date in a way that seemed like disposable. Like they would just kind of go through it very rapidly, whereas I was like, why don't I have access to that? So therefore it means that when I do date, it's quite difficult to get there and not think it's like the one. Yeah. But I've like learned now to really not take that mindset and just be like, it's still fine. One of the best days I had, I went in with that mindset. I was like, this is going to be the only day I'm ever going to need.
Yeah.
Ever.
Marry, kids, future, done?
Yeah.
Nah.
3 months later, I'm crying on a doorstep.
No.
I'd love to be a cliche.
What about dating apps though? Is there is that a struggle?
Good question.
It is. Do you know what? Dating apps have got a lot better because in terms of being able to identify on them, like pretty much all of the big players in dating apps, you can now. Which is
That's
fine.
really good.
Yeah, which is really great. But it does kind of mean, it's kind of like the same analogy that I could use for like same-sex marriage. Just because an institution has changed something internally for other people doesn't mean that the whole experience of the app is great. It's like in the same way that same-sex marriage, people are like, homophobia's gone. Yeah. And it's like, well, no.
No,
so, like,
it doesn't work like that.
Yeah, so like you still have awful people on those apps, and also, although you have other trans and non-binary people in the mix, the environment sometimes isn't necessarily safe, or it can feel a bit fetishizing.
Oh yeah, definitely. I can imagine. Because your pool of people that feel comfortable in their own skin is so small. I mean, it's easy if you're just cis swiping on Tinder.
Yeah, exactly. Like the only serious, hi Matt. The only serious dating experience that I've had was with another non-binary person, which I found very, very good. But also very bad.
Did you have a nice evening? Several nice evenings.
All I'm going to say is I think our generation have watched too much Skins, and they think that sex should be like it is in the films and stupid TV shows. Yeah. But it did involve a bath and a lot of candles.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Oh.
And sex.
Good.
Well, yeah.
It was good. It was nice to date someone who's non-binary. Yeah. Because all of that, like you said, all of that discussion it doesn't need to happen.
Yeah.
But what it does mean is that it can sometimes dominate all conversation. It can kind of be like, can we not just talk about like Strictly or
that favourite movie?
Matt Baker, like come on.
Our lives are so influenced by what we see on the media, in films, TV. Like, do you think there's enough representation out there at the moment?
I find this a really interesting one because as someone who like works within the media and as someone who is often seen as the representation, I've kind of realised that representation is important, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. And I think there's a lot of institutional problems that actually we need to properly fix and that the media aren't going to actually do.
Yeah.
The things that I'd say that are important with media is making sure that the behind the camera is as representative of what's in front, because that's actually giving people a career, it's giving people like longevity, it's actually like seeing people for their craft and their skill rather than just their identity, which I think is really important. But yeah, the media is a difficult one to navigate. Some of the best programs out there at the moment, like Pose, you know, centered around queer people and trans people of color, it's written by those people. Like the whole thing is written by those people. You know, that's why a lot of the work that queer people do, they do it themselves because they're not given those opportunities, or they can't access those opportunities within the media themselves because of the fact that, you know, it's not Pride Month, or it's not the right time, or they're too out there. It's a difficult one to navigate, but I think my advice in that respect would to be just to keep going, because you know you're going to have to fight more than John.
Oh, good old John.
John everywhere. So like
Keep pushing.
And you're probably more interested than John.
Yeah. Do you have any other tips for kids that might be like struggling with finding their gender identity?
I think I would go back to like what I said before about taking your time. And before I was talking about fashion, but I think taking your time is really important because you know, we're in a time with like the media, you're fed so many lies about what being trans is, and especially at the moment, like there's a lot of discussion around like trans and gender neutrality, like damaging children. And I think that's really important to ignore and know that you know, you're not damaged, because I think that's the message that's actually being put out is that this is all detrimental to young people. When actually, again, through the community on social or in person, like I've seen that actually in all kind of activism streams, like climate change and, you know, politics, like the young people are actually the change makers at the moment. They are the people driving the change that we're making now to actually elevate and become widespread. So I think they've got it switched on.
Yeah. What do you see the future being?
One big thing that I always say is empathy. I think at the moment we have a real lack of empathy when it comes to other people's lived experience, and in the future I'd want that. And I think that's good advice as well, because I think we all need to have empathy, because we all are meeting other people that have a different lived experience with their intersectionalities and how that impacts what their day-to-day is like. Empathy will change that, and I think that's something that I think the future will hopefully have an abundance.
Nobody should have to explain unless they want to.
Yeah.
That's the thing, yeah.
So in the future you won't be here talking to us.
Yeah. Be off.
It'll be